In northern Florida, there's an oasis, a place where lovers of music can gather and dance under the sun and the stars. The Spirit of Suwannee Music Park. It's a place where magic happens, where the natural beauty that surrounds inspires the hearts of the players and listeners alike, and the joy that results is truly a sight to behold. Those visiting the park for the first time struggle to find a way to describe the amazing atmosphere of natural beauty and musical bliss, but the returning faithful have found a word for it. They call it home. While hundreds of thousands of visitors have come to know the Spirit of Suwannee Music Park as a slice of heaven on earth, few know how it came to be this way. Bob and Jean Cornett not only founded the park, they infused the place with a spirit of community, hope, and love that has only grown stronger over the years. The Cornets kindly took some time to tell me a little bit about the history of the park, how they came to find it, and how their philosophies of family and sharing shaped it into the beloved institution it is to this very day.
We've been married 62 and a half years, but we started dating 3 years before we got married, so that's 65 and a half years.
So at this point, I would guess that pretty much every version of every argument's been had and done.
Had it many times.
We've been through them all.
Don't need to do that.
That's what I was figuring. I mean, in 60 years, you could probably, in all these years, you could be done with it. You can probably just look at each other and nod.
And know exactly what they're thinking.
Jean tells me nobody ought to have to put up with what she has. She's older than I am, by the way.
I brought him up.
She's taken advantage of my youth and inexperience.
You robbed the cradle, is that
I robbed the cradle.
Wisdom comes with age.
Yeah, that's what I like to tell Jean.
Berea College was founded in 1855 by John Gregg Fee, a pioneer in the abolitionist movement. Berea was, in fact, the first non-segregated institution of higher learning in the South, opening its doors to anyone, regardless of race, creed, or gender. From its humble one-room beginnings, it grew into one of the most noted liberal arts schools in the region. Its spirit infected the Cornets and came to inform their thinking on matters of community and life.
Well, I spent a little time just by chance yesterday looking through the old yearbooks from our days at Berea, remembering people I hadn't thought about for many years. Those, by and large, were country folks. The students were country folks. They came from all over the mountains, but about half of them from Kentucky. By and large, it was bitty towns. I grew up in Hazard, which by the Berea standards was a big city. I was a big city boy.
That's right.
Berea. Jean was the country girl. But there was a sense, an egalitarian atmosphere at Berea. There wasn't rank. There wasn't a hierarchy. And yet they turned out some extremely valuable people that were highly successful. I noticed one of my basketball teammates, who later became a professor at Brown University and was one of the most distinguished mathematicians in the world. And so there was some good stuff going on at Berea, but it was the absence of hierarchy, the absence of rank, absence of big shots.
We spoke of how society has placed a high value on profit over participation and how we, as a people, can fight back that rising tide.
By doing it, we fight it by getting on it, by doing what went on front porches 100 years ago, where people needed each other. They came together on Saturday night. They may have been shucking corn or stringing beans, or they may have been out barn raising during the day. They may well have had music as part of it, some jamming. Everybody was needed. They needed each other, welcomed each other. We go back to that. And more of that's left, I think, in the mountains. This is my prejudice, but I think more of that's left now, certainly in the rural areas, especially the mountains, than it is in most places. We go back to the past. Go back to the future, I guess, the way they word it.
Yeah.
People with a mission to accomplish can just find ways to work together. They don't need a government to organize them or to set the rules. They can set their own and do it.
No strangers to putting on events themselves, the Cornets just this year celebrated the 40th anniversary of their Lexington, Kentucky-based Festival of the Bluegrass.
Music festival for 40 years?
40 years. We're slow learners. We had 6 sons. And of course they were immediately drafted to help pick up trash. And then I was involved in 4-H work at that time. The 4-H club did our first concession stand. And just friends that wanted to be involved in the festival pitched in and helped out, and it's just grown. And now all the in-laws and cousins and so on and so forth come to the festival. They realize that that's part of it, and it's kind of a family reunion for us. But the festival really belongs, as far as we're concerned, belongs to our people that come to the festival and spend their money and whatnot, and they all basically, they'll pitch it and help with little odd jobs and whatnot as we go along too. And we've had volunteers that basically have been with us for many, many years, and they come back every year. And that's just the way it goes. We always welcome new faces too, and particularly grandchildren that come along. People bring their grandchildren by to say hello and introduce them to who's doing the festival.
That distinction between getting people there for the purpose of extracting money from them, on the one hand, as opposed to getting them there for purposes of sharing, is a fundamental distinction. I like to believe that distinction has been kept in clear view at the Festival of the Bluegrass here.
That's right, we're leaving that to the younger generations. And not just like our festival, our grandson is now taking over the reins on that, and he'll do a good job. He bit off more than he thought he was, but that's true with every promoter that ever came around. And it just takes a lot of sweat and tears to get it going, but he did have a track laid for him to run on. We have a lot of people dependent on you, and when you have people dependent on you, you jump up and you march to a better drummer that way. And that's what's kept the festival going, is that we've just had the energy and the ability to keep it going.
How they came to even find the spirit of Suwannee is a story in and of itself.
We were looking for a place to spend the winters. We were finished with what we were working on up here. Thought we'd be spending some winters in Florida probably, and went down kind of looking around to see if we could find a place, and we thought we might have a little bluegrass music at the place while we were there. But just mostly for the winter and for fun, rather than anything else. And we happened to stop by Live Oak, Florida on our way home. We knew that they'd had a festival at a county park there, and Jean's niece, by chance, lived in that town. So we stopped to visit Jean's niece, incidentally stopped and looked at that park, which at that time had been closed for 3 or 4 years. It had been built by the county with federal money when federal money was flowing freely, and it had some bluegrass music festivals there. So we went out on our way by there. We passed it on our way home from Jean's nieces, and Jean fell in love with the place in just a very few minutes, and I knew I was doomed to try to make it happen, and so we optioned to buy it, and we set out to try to build it into a major music park around bluegrass, with bluegrass being the core of it.
Bob Cornett shared the tale of a book he recently finished, Why Nations Fail, and how the lessons on economic systems examined within could be transferred to the human interaction and government influence in our everyday lives.
We talked about a couple of economists that wrote a book about, that said that you can't look at economics by itself. It has to be looked at in light of the social context, the political context, how people relate to each other. That is how the government does, how they relate to each other given government, how they relate to each other given the absence of government. That that book is superb. Yeah, the name of it is Why Nations Fail, written about politics, but by two economists. I called. I couldn't pronounce one of their names. One of them was at MIT and the other at Harvard. I couldn't pronounce one of them's name. So I called up there to ask somebody, some secretary, for the fellow's name. That fella answered the phone. We ended up talking about his book for a while. It pleased him that somebody had read it and enjoyed it. He was feeling a little sad that he is just what he called an academic. He writes the book, puts it out there, and then he goes on to something else. If anything happens with it, somebody else has to do it. Some non-people outside his world have to do it. So that's what he was seeing, I guess, is the possibility that his book would have an impact beyond him.
Their arrival in Suwannee County to open the park rallied the locals to their cause. An outpouring of love and assistance from the new neighbors helped build the park into the national treasure it's become.
We had never really been campers even. We had a motorhome, but we used it basically just going to music festivals and that type of thing. But the community there, different people in the community came to rally around us and to help out and to offer different things down there. And we were the thing that happened in Suwannee County, Florida. It's a rural county. They really hadn't had anything. I guess the chicken factory
factory closed not long after we got down there.
Yeah, was the employer and whatnot. And
when they had Ralph Stanley and Carter and Jim and Jesse there, had that.
Well, in a tobacco warehouse from many years ago, so we didn't introduce bluegrass music to the community at all. But the people that were approaching being seniors, according to their age, remembered it, and they kind of rallied around and wanted us to bring them back, and that type of thing. But the county did liven up a little bit, and I personally think it's going just fine in Florida.
The spirit in the name has been there from the very beginning, and Jean Cornett shared a little of the first Sunday worship held in the park and the origin of the chapel by the lake.
For spring, we wanted to have a sunrise service, and so the fellows went out and split some logs and made some benches, and we had a little altar, and I picked out the place for it just because it said something to me. And when we got up there and the sun came up, we were facing right directly at the sun, and because there was a fog on the lake, and it just did all of our souls some good for the hurried up work we had done to build it. And so I felt like I needed a chapel for weddings or when people need to have a few quiet minutes of their own or whatnot. And that was literally built not necessarily by the paid people at the park, but by volunteers. And even the contractor that put it under roof for me, he says, I will do it for you, totally at cost of materials, to get it under roof for you, so y'all can go ahead and get it finished up. And my friend Gretchen Swords here in Kentucky helped me with the stained glass windows. Another friend gave me a pump organ for it, and we have some beautiful benches. And then another friend, I had some walnut lumber that my brother had given me, and so he took the walnut lumber and made the pulpit and the fern stands out of it. But it's all totally was built with the love, and even the live oak tree that's carved in the front door, that was a wood carver did that for me. That's what has built the spirit of the Suwannee.
The amphitheater stage was not only designed by the Cornets, they built it themselves with the help of others and materials from and around the park itself.
Our main stage was built the same way. the stage that they call the amphitheater there was a dream I had, and I had to get it approved by the building inspectors. And the ones in Suwannee County really had never had any experience with the stage, but I didn't necessarily dream, but I came up with the idea as to what I wanted it to look like. But that is the stage that I dreamed up one spring. And people, the campers there in the park pitched in and helped. One fellow says, I'm gonna take the paint job. And he painted that whole stage with a brush in 1 week. I wasn't gonna paint it, I didn't have time to paint it. And he says, I'll do it, I'll get it done. And he did.
The tradition of hurrying to arrive but being slow to depart is as old as the park itself.
But that's what built the park in Florida. It just happened that on Sunday morning, when the shows were over, we would join hands and make a circle. And of course, when the first time we did it, we had 100 people there. But I have seen them stretch out as far as they can stretch and still be in the concert area, making that circle. And now I sit on my porch and watch them come in, and then I watch them leave, and it's still the same type of thing. They're just exhausted when they get ready to go home. We would sit out by the office and wave to people and tell them goodbye when they would leave an event. And it's interesting, when they come into an event, they rush, walking twice as fast as they should be, carrying their chairs and their picnics and whatnot. And then when they go back out at night and they're dragging kids and wagons or whatnot, and it would make them smile. And that's what started our friendship circle, that we moved it down to the festival grounds just to say goodbye. See you next year.
While most people come to the park for the music, it's the magic and the tranquility of the quiet afterwards that keeps people coming back.
It changes with the seasons. It's lots of fun being there for an event, but it's so pleasant after an event is over because it is so quiet. And the birds start singing again, and it's a fine place. Now, I have never been swimming in the river.
I have.
Yes, you told me that you had, and that's one thing that I went canoeing down the river. I've been on the river, but I've never been swimming because they scared me. I'm not a real good swimmer. And if the river's at its normal pool, it kind of moves kind of swift. And there are some deep holes, and I think that kind of scares.
And there's some alligators too.
And there are alligators there. Frequently, every once in a while, somebody sees an alligator down on the beach.
Now I'm actually kind of scared. Nobody told me about any gators down there.
Oh yeah.
So thank you so much for all you've done for music, for all you've done for everything. There's so many people who wanted to thank you but didn't know who you were, and I really want to share who you are with these folks so that you can just start getting cards and letters from all these people who've been saving up all this love to give whoever it was who did this for them. And that's you folks.
Well, it's a place to enjoy. It really is. But there's a lot of sweat and tears that make that happen, though.
Anything good doesn't just happen.
That's right. I agree.
And you folks made this happen for us. So on behalf of just music, thank you so much.
But appreciate you coming. Take care.
Thanks to the dozens of concerts and festivals running year-round, there's something for every musical taste, not to mention the lakes, the 50 acres of hiking trails, and of course, the mighty Suwannee River. There's never a bad time to visit the park. You'll come for the music, sure, but it's the love you feel upon entering the gates that will bring you back to Suwannee. It's more than a place where music lives. It's home.